Hi, welcome back to my podcast. This is Rosalind Yukich from A Little R&R, and if you are new to my podcast, I just want to welcome you. I am so glad that you're here. If you are a returning listener or watcher on the videos, I am so glad that you're here. I appreciate every single one of you. I really, really do. This is so much fun. I'm having so much fun doing this podcast every single week. And today we have a new reader question. The question is, how do I put my quiet time in my schedule? So if this is a question that you've asked yourself, if you are struggling to fit your quiet time into your day, then you're going to want to stay tuned because this is what we're going to be talking about today. Okay, so the question, how do I put my quiet time into my schedule? You know, a lot of people are asking this. I get this question in one format or another quite often in my inbox, as a comment on my blog, and just in my email. And because a lot of people are really struggling with this. We live such busy lives. I know that in my case, with working from home and homeschooling and running an online Bible study, and of course I have all of the things in my home, the laundry, the dishes, the ironing, all of that. And there are just so many things that we are trying to cram into one day. If your kids play sports or if they have music lessons, there are so many different things, and our schedules are so packed and busy that we really struggle with this one area because I think for us, when we can't physically see the person that we're talking to, we sit down and we read our Bible and we pray, and, God is not visible. We are so accustomed to this natural realm that we oftentimes minimize the value of our quiet time because we don't see it as a relationship on the same level as we have relationships with our friends and our family. And so it's a huge struggle. I know for myself, since I began homeschooling, my quiet time has become an even bigger challenge because I would get up in the morning, and for years and years and years and years and years, my quiet time is the first thing that I did in the morning. I get up and I sit and I read my Bible and I pray. And then I would sit down and I try to get a little bit of online work done before my kids got up. And then we would start school, and it would just be knowing that I had clients that I had to take care of, that I have responsibilities that I need to fulfill, also knowing that those responsibilities are what add to our budget in our home, that it's not something I can just put off until tomorrow because tomorrow is fresh with its own responsibilities, and I don't need to just accumulate all of those things until the end of the week. And so it'd be rush, get done with school because I've got to get this online work done. I don't want to be up until midnight getting work done because I have to be up early again tomorrow. And it just felt like life was dragging me along. And so the question was, where do I fit everything in? Not just my quiet time, but literally everything in my day. And I knew that it was that there were pieces of this puzzle that really weren't in the right place. And so how do I fit my quiet time into my schedule? And I think that the reason why we struggle with this question so much is because we're really not asking the right questions, so we're not getting the right answer. They say if you want to get the right answer, you need to ask the right question. And so that's really where I think the missing piece is that we haven't been asking the right question. Really, more to the point, we have the wrong idea to begin with. So we don't fit our quiet time into our schedule. We fit our schedule around our quiet time. And I know that for a lot of us, this is an enormous step of faith. But really, quite honestly, I think when we begin looking at it like that, like my quiet time goes here and then everything else fits around it, I think we'll begin to see a greater blessing in our life. We'll have a more fulfilled life, Christian life, and walk with the Lord because we have our priorities in the right order. And so it's not going to look the same for every person. You know, like I said, up until just a couple of weeks ago, I would get up in the morning and I would have my quiet time and then get on with the rest of my day. And I realized that, you know, a part of my stress was having the online work hanging over my head all day long. And so that really was for me the biggest struggle. And so it was like, well, why don't I take my quiet time and move it to the time that my kids would be doing some independent work and get my online work done first thing in the morning and have that done before school, so everything else just sort of gels together. And that has really been the key to unlocking everything, and it has made an enormous difference. And so I'm going to be talking more as we get deeper into the topic of quiet times with this podcast. I'm going to be talking more about the fact that your quiet time does not have to be in the morning. You know, for a lot of people that works. For me, it really wasn't working because it was causing a conflict with other things in my day. And so, you know, pushing it off until a later time, I'm more awake and I feel a lot more relaxed because I don't feel the pressure of having to get some work done before my kids get up. And so moving it to a different time of the day. But here's the key, is you set the time and then you stick to it. Here's my time that I'm going to have with the Lord, and then my schedule is going to fit around that. And I'm not going to cancel that for something else. I'm not trying to fit my quiet time into my schedule. I'm fitting my schedule around that time with the Lord. And I feel like when we have a priority, when something is a great priority for us, really that's how we think about it, right? We have a priority of, you know, our job, and that's a responsibility and it's a priority, and we don't tell our boss, I'm sorry, I can't come today because I have something else came up. You know, that it doesn't work that way. And we need to start thinking about our quiet time in that same context. It is a responsibility that we have as children of God, as Christians, and it's a priority to us because it is the single way that we really grow in our walk with the Lord. Really, we won't grow in our walk with the Lord any other way than by making it a priority to sit and read our Bible and pray, spending time with the Lord. And so learning how to approach that question from the right perspective, when we ask the right question, we'll get the right answers. Now, I know that, like I said earlier, this is a step of faith for a lot of people because we don't see how that actually works. Our lives are so busy, and we realize, you know, we're going to have to move things around, or we're going to have to maybe cancel something in our schedule that can be canceled to make that work. But I feel that when we decide that we're going to take a step of faith to do something that God has commanded us to do, not seeing the full picture of how this is going to work yet, but saying, I'm going to take that step of faith and I'm going to do it, God will reward that faith. And so, you know, if you're a young mom, you know, it's not going to look the same as if you are an empty nester, or you're a single woman, or if you're a busy career woman. For every single demographic, it's going to look different. And I believe that's why in the Bible it doesn't tell us get up and spend time with God at 6 o'clock in the morning, because that's not going to work for every person. I mean, if you have a baby, you are up at all times of the night and you're exhausted, and 6 o'clock in the morning is really not the best time for you. You know, and so you have to move it to another time of the day. But finding what works, you know, and finding the method that works, you know, for some people, you know, especially right now when, you know, kids are doing school online, so they're at home all the time, and your whole schedule looks totally different. Maybe what makes more sense for you is, instead of having an actual time slot saying my quiet time is going to be from this time to that time, maybe what really will work for you is laying your Bible open on the kitchen counter or the kitchen table and taking moments of saying, I'm going to read through this passage today as I grab the moment having little prayer cards there to remind yourself of prayer things, and you just grab it as you go, and just sort of feed on it all day long. And that is just as effective as sitting and having that quiet time, because you're still getting the word inside of you. And sometimes I think in a way that is almost better, because we're reminding ourselves, we're reflecting on it all day long, instead of saying, okay, God, you have from this time to that time, and then when that's over, we got to go. And I think that perhaps doing that method of keeping our Bible open and reflecting on what we've read, what we're reading all throughout the day, it may actually bear more fruit in our lives than giving God a time slot. Because I do think that sometimes and that's another topic for another day, I do think that that's a lot of times how we kind of approach our quiet times is, this is my appointment with God, and when that appointment's over, I have another appointment, and we're just moving on with our day. That, again, is another topic for another podcast. But finding what works for you, finding the time that works for you, but sticking with it, making your schedule fit to that instead of trying to fit that in your schedule. And I feel like when we begin approaching the question from that perspective, we're going to find the right answer, and it's going to be more fulfilling, and it's going to bear a lot more fruit in our lives, because we have taken that step of faith and saying, this is a number one priority. This is the most important thing in my schedule today, and this is the time that it's going to happen. And when other things come up, other things are going to have to move out of the way, because that really is the biggest priority in my life. If you've enjoyed this podcast, I want to encourage you to share it with your friends. You can do that by sharing the link to the podcast, encouraging them to download it on their favorite podcast app. You can also find this podcast on Rumble and on BitChute in video form. So you might want to visit me there. Be sure to join my channel on either one of those platforms, or on both if you like. And also be sure to tell your friends that that's where they can find me if they prefer watching this on video. Also, I just want to encourage you, stop by and visit my blog at RosalindJukic.com. That's RosalindJukic.com. You can find me there. You'll find a lot more materials for having a quiet time. That is what is on the blog. That is what we were talking about over the next couple of months, and there are a lot of resources there. You can find that link in the description below, as well as a couple of links that I think you're going to find really interesting that have to do with the subject of the podcast today. So if this podcast was a blessing to you, let me know. Leave me a comment. You can join me on social media. All of the links to my social media are below, so be sure to also follow me there, and let me know what you think about this podcast, and don't forget to share it with someone else.